Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the Acres. Today I figured I am going to give you, along with some pictures and video, tell you all about how we upgraded the power on our property so that we could put in a campground so that you guys and our family could come and camp with us and enjoy the acres with us. So let's dive into what we did to get 400 amp power service to the property. So we always knew our big 5-year plan, like I teach in our Simplify Thrive Homestead Academy, is to create a 5-year plan for what you want your homestead to look like, what you want to do in the homesteading realm. So our 5-year plan included a campground that we could then invite family and friends and you guys out to come and camp with us and enjoy the acres. Now, when we first got power or started to get power, it was right after 2020 and supplies were really short. There was a lot we couldn't get a lot of supplies. So we settled for a 200 amp service at the time, which was fine for what we needed. We just, at that point, really just wanted to be able to put our camper out here and camp with our camper. So we did 200 amp service. But as we got closer to moving down here full time, we knew we needed to make some big changes to the power so that we could accommodate our camper, my mother-in-law's camper, and then also have power to the barn. So we contacted the power company again, and at that point they had 400 amp meter bases, and all it required was Jamie meeting with the guy to kind of go through the plan, and signed off on it. So he met with him, I guess it was back in early spring. Jamie met with him, he got the base, and we were good to start. We did opt to have friends of ours come in and dig the trenches for us because the trenches for the power and where the campground is runs from where the barn is all the way to the pollinator garden behind me. So instead of us digging that by hand or renting a trencher, we opted to have someone come in and dig it. So they trenched from the barn all the way to the last campsite, and then we did spokes off for all of the power and water and sewer. So when they trenched, they ran the conduit for the power, they ran the water, and they ran the sewer lines. So everything was in place and ready to go. Well, at the beginning of July, we had a cutoff date where the power company was going to come out. They were going to shut the power off for 24 hours so that we could switch out the meter bases and then reconnect it, which meant we had to get everything wired and ready before that date. So my dad and Jamie and the kids and myself, more my dad and Jamie, we pulled wire through conduit for days. Now, the conduit, I think the longest run of conduit was 170 feet. So we pulled the wire all 170 feet through that conduit. It was fun. It was comical at the same time. Oh my gosh, is it going to get stuck? Are we going to lose the hose? They put guide ropes in the conduit to help pull so that we knew where everything was going. Are we going to lose the rope? It's a really long distance, but it all worked out. We had friends of ours are electricians, and he gave us some suggestions and gave us this goo stuff that you squeeze into the pipe. It's a lubricant. I'll link it below if I can find it. And you squeeze that into the pipe, and then when you pull, it makes it so that the wires go smoother through the pipe and it's easier to set up. So we pulled all of the wire for everything, and then we wired the pedestals at each of the campsites. So we have 4 campsites. We have a 50, which is a 50 amp, and a 20. We have a 30, which is a 30 and a 20. And then we have 2 more 30s and 20s. That way you can plug your camper in, but then you can also plug in just a regular extension cord and run a fan, a TV, whatever you want to run outside. For us, we run our Insta Omni outside a lot of times. If it's hot outside, it just makes it easier for us. So we ran all of that, got all of the pedestals wired up, and then we had to work in the barn. So we were moving, the panel was currently outside of the barn, and we needed to move it inside, and we needed to upgrade it. So now we have 2 200 amp panels in the barn. One is strictly for the campground, and then the other one is for the barn. And then outside on the panel, we have the meter base, the 400 amp meter base, and we have two 200 shutoffs. So everything kind of works together and we go pull all the wire. But it was a lot of fun. I don't know if Dad and Jamie would agree with that, but it was a lot of fun to like pull the wire and get all that done. The kids got involved. Garrett loved helping Granddad wire up the boxes and put the pedestals in and do all of that fun stuff. And then, so all of that got put in. We made the cutoff for the date for like, okay, come out and shut the power off. So they came out and they shut the power off. It was probably one of the hottest days of the year. Jamie and my dad, Jamie was sick at the time, but they worked their butts off they had to dig a bigger hole so that they could rearrange the panel. They had to get it all wired back up again, and they had a deadline. I think they cut the power off at like 8 a.m. and then they had to have it ready to go and ready to turn back on by 2. They did not make that deadline, but Jamie called the power company anyway and was like, hey, we are so close. And they're like, we'll just come back out tomorrow morning. All will be fine. So they came out the following morning. They were ready. They turned it all on and it worked. We had power. We had power to the campers, and we had power in the barn. We only had one outlet in the barn at the time, but everything had power. And the next thing they had to work on was reconnecting the well and the well pump. This gave my dad a little bit of trouble. Every time he would wire it, it would trip the breaker. It would trip the breaker. And finally he was like, I'm done. I can't mess with this anymore. So we did call the well company. They did come back out and look at it. They determined that there was dirt in the switch, which is what was causing the problem. So they cleaned that out. They rewired it all together, and then the well worked too, which was so awesome because now we have water at every campsite. We have a hydrant out by the barn so we can water things that are in the back. And it's just, there's not any hoses everywhere. So now we don't have hoses running everywhere. We don't have electrical wires running everywhere. It makes it really easy to cut the grass because you're not dodging all of this stuff and having people move this and move that as you're cutting the grass. So we have all of that set up and it's glorious. It has been such a blessing and making our lives a lot easier. And then this week, my dad came out and him and we ran to Lowe's, his favorite store, and we got things to put lights and more outlets in the barn. So we did have one outlet in the barn, and off that one outlet, I was running the refrigerator, I was running the washer, and we were running any power tools. I mean, I didn't have any problems with that, but there was just there was extension cords everywhere. So we mapped out kind of what we wanted and what we wanted it to look like. And then we ran an outlet for the washer and the refrigerator. So all of those wires got picked up. And then we also ran lights. So we ran 2 lights to be outside. And then we ran a light so you could see the stairs. And then we also ran a light to be like over top of like the work area we have right now. And we did all that during the day. And after, my dad and I, like that night, we were able to actually see what it would look like. And it is awesome. It is amazing. There's so much light in the barn. You could definitely go out there and work and do something and see what you're doing. So we are super, super excited that we are on our way to making this place our dream, the vision we've had in our head. The electricity is coming along great. We are going to add more lights to the barn eventually. We have a couple other projects we want to do first before we add that, just to make sure that we're putting the lights in spots that we want them. So we are super, super excited to get all of that in and be able to get some projects done around here in the nighttime. We do need to build a room for the water pressure tank so that it stays somewhat warm in the winter and it doesn't freeze, so that we have water all winter. So that is up on the agenda here soon. And we have some big plans for some of these gardens so that we can get some of these perennial plants in before it gets too cold. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me at the Acres again today. I hope you are enjoying seeing our progress. If you have any questions or if there's something in particular you want to see, leave us a comment below. We are happy to show you guys all the things that we are doing and all the things that we're learning. So thanks and have a great day.